Let's see here. September 24th, 1862, a date that's going to live in infinity. 14 Northern governors meet at Altoona, Pennsylvania, and support emancipation. He just wrote the preliminary Emancipation Proclamation, and then it's going to be the first. January 1st, 1863 is when it's going to get kicked into high gear. Here's a picture of William Tecumseh Sherman looking all disheveled and shit. He can't be, he's not concerned with combing his hair and his beard and darning his socks. What the hell's darning socks anyways? And this card just fell out so great. And one of my place markers for something Phil Sheridan, Union troops advance towards Jubal Early's. Let's see here. Two brothers in arms. Identities unknown. This is interesting. This is brotherhood. I like this. Malcolm X fought for brotherhood. A lot of pieces of shit motherfuckers are just authoritarian pieces of shit. If they ain't kissing ass, then they're telling someone else what to fucking do. It's oppress or be oppressed. As if what? We can't have brotherhood? I like that. I like that picture of brotherhood. Andrew Jackson Smith is the guy on the side of the two brothers. It says the identities are unknown. President Lincoln and others are distressed when the New York Post reveals the movement of reinforcements to Chattanooga. Raphael Simes, Confederate responsible. He's born, son of a bitch. Union Generals Alexander McDowell McCook. Alright, and T.L. Crittenden are relieved of their corps command in the Army of the Cumberland after the defeat at Chickamauga. Oh, shit. That's September 28th, 1863. That's something. Both are exonerated of any wrongdoing by courts of inquiry, but the shadow of Chickamauga will dim their command prospects through the rest of the war. Also, because they're on the losing racist, white supremacist, terrorist, anti-American side. So the War Governors Conference, this is huge news. The War Governors Conference is going to happen 1862, so this is the second year of the Civil War, second year of Abraham Lincoln's America. The United States of America is fighting a civil war, and it's North versus South, but you're going to strengthen the hand of Lincoln. You got 13 governors. 13 governors, mostly of the North, are going to come together, talk about the war effort, state troop quotas, and then discuss Emancipation Proclamation. And guess how many of the 13 said yes to the Emancipation Proclamation? It wasn't just Lincoln as a radical because he says the black man is a man. Well, listen to this. Is John A. Andrew, Massachusetts, says yes. Nathaniel S. Berry of New Hampshire says yes. Yes, Emancipation Proclamate. Austin Blair of Michigan says yes. Augustus Bradford of Maryland said no. Andrew G. Curtin of Pennsylvania, yes. Samuel Kirkwood of Iowa, yes. Oliver P. Morton of Indiana, yes. Who is represented by D.G. Rose Francis H. Pierpont, Virginia, yes. Edward Salomon, Wisconsin, yes. William Sprague, Rhode Island, yes. David Todd, Ohio, yes. Israel Washburn, Maine, yes. Maine. Richard Yates, Illinois, yes. And so, who's all on the side of Abraham Lincoln? Well, you just got Illinois and Maine and Ohio and Rhode Island and Wisconsin and Virginia and Indiana and Iowa and Pennsylvania and Michigan and New Hampshire and Massachusetts. I mean, that's basically the real America anyways, isn't it? All those fucking bullshit southern states. Who the fuck would go to the southern states? What southern states are worthy of going compared to Minnesota? Compared to motherfucking Vermont? You don't need goddamn Georgia. You don't need Alabama or Mississippi. That's a bunch of wasted land. It would be better if Vermont just went down and took over Alabama and just said, this is Vermont number 2. This is Greater Vermont. This is Vermont 2.0. The Logan House and anniversary ceremony. So I had a little blurb that I was going to read here. Augustus Bradford. Augustus Bradford, why did he vote no? Why did that motherfucker, that son of a bitch, he thinks he knows better than Abraham Lincoln? Is that what you're trying to tell me? He don't know better than no Abraham Lincoln? So, you have this conference in 1862. 13 of the governors come together and say, yes, free the black man. Go ahead. They also criticize McClellan. And so, despite the many heated debates, all the governors except for Augustus Bradford of Maryland consented to the final address. Bradford's disapproval is most likely a result of Maryland still being a slave state. In the morning, Governor Alston Blair of Michigan arrived late but joined the fellow delegates in going to Washington, D.C. the same day with Blair's name. A total of 12 signatures were included on the address to be presented to the president. No official minutes of the meeting were kept for security reasons. Once the delegation reached the White House on September 26, they read the document proclaiming the rightful authority of the president and the constitutional powers of Congress. Depending on the rights and liberties of the people, the governors agreed to continue in the most vigorous exercise of all our lawful powers, contending against treason, rebellion, and the public enemies until final victory and unconditional submission. The address went on to promote the military education of the people. Lincoln took their welcome suggestions on the internal management of the war effort, including recruiting, transport of troops, etc. However, the meeting became contentious when Governor Kirkwood of Iowa suggested that General McClellan was unfit for command. Lincoln refused to argue either way on the issue and promptly concluded the meeting. Nevertheless, McClellan was relieved of command less than 2 months later, and the Emancipation Proclamation came into effect January 1st, 1863. The address was sent to other Union governors that were unable to attend the meeting. Of them, the executives of Vermont, Connecticut, Kansas, Minnesota, and Oregon all gave their approval of the document, of course, because Oregon and Minnesota and Kansas and Connecticut and Vermont are worthy of being in the United States of America. It was declined by those of New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Kentucky, and Missouri, of course, because those sons of bitches, half of those motherfuckers were still slave states. So the results of the meeting, we already talked about it, but essentially what happened is it strengthened Lincoln's hands. He was elected, and here's the second year of the war. It's 1862, and so you just had a whole bunch of fucking governors get together and say good with what they're doing. They talked to Lincoln, so they're a part of the war effort, and he heard them out. He heard them out. So if you want to get the president to listen to you, all you need to do is get 13 of your governors together and get 12 of them to agree that Emancipation Proclamation is A-OK. And then you could say, and you know, that damn George B. McClellan, the commander of the Army of the Potomac, he's a damn scumbag. Why don't you just fire that damn scumbag? And then Curtin, I guess I'll end it off on this last guy named Curtin. So you have Curtin of Pennsylvania, who's the one that formed the conference. So Andrew G. Curtin of Pennsylvania, who said, yes, he's a politician, he's a lawyer, he's all dressed all fancy-dancy. I heard a lot of these governors actually weren't just abolitionists, but they're above and beyond, more so than Abraham Lincoln was. And I heard the same thing about Andrew Gregg Curtin. So he's a lawyer, a politician, the 15th governor of Pennsylvania during the Civil War. He helped defend his state during the Gettysburg campaign, oversaw the creation of the National Cemetery and the ceremony in which Abraham Lincoln delivered his famous Gettysburg Address. Career governor of Pennsylvania. Let's see, battles of 1862. Did they mention it? No, they don't mention it at all. They just kind of talk about his... Oh yeah, here it is. In Altoona, the event was one of his most significant contributions to the Union war effort. He formed the Pennsylvania State Agency in Washington, another branch in Nashville, Tennessee, to provide support for wounded soldiers. On the battlefield, he returned home. He founded the state-funded orphan school to aid and educate children and military men who had died for the Union cause. You got a bust of Andrew Gregg Curtin, which is all, looks like it's in the rotunda, but it also looks like it's all rusted and shit. Philadelphia Smith Memorial Arch by Moses Jacob Ezekiel. Curtin lost his party Senate nomination to Simon Cameron, was appointed ambassador to Russia by U.S. Grant. Curtin later switched to the Democratic Party and served as a U.S. representative from 81 to 87. So, okay, what happened there, you son of a bitch? Kind of did a little fucking 180. Curtin was married to Catherine Irvin Wilson, and they were the parents of Mary, Martha, Myron, Catherine, and Bessie. So, there you go. He died at his birthplace of Bellefonte, Pennsylvania, and is buried there in the Union Cemetery. So, Andrew Craig Curtin, I think, was a bigger abolitionist than what's his fucking face? That goddamn, what's his, Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln. So it was suggested by Pennsylvania governor, staunch defender of the war effort and Lincoln administration policies. The event provided Lincoln much needed support from the northern states. It was held at the Logan House Hotel. The Logan House Hotel, historic hotel. It was in operation from the 1850s to the 1920s when it was demolished. So shit, there is no Logan House Hotel no more. Altoona, Pennsylvania. That was quite the historical moment. That curtain of Pennsylvania, that was September 24th, September 25th, 1862. That Kit Carson, I swear to God.